knows how. If I had the good sense to pull in the Facebook feed this time, so I've got the music I can jam to.
Hey, Shari.
Good morning. Sorry, I just realized I was hot on the mic, but I said a bad word.
This is a family show.
I know. All my wires are all tangled up. I'm trying to get to my headset. How are you, gentlemen, today?
Christian, can you post the link in the chat for the YouTube live feed? Christian, leave.
Doing fun backgrounds today. Kirsten's like, we're always doing fun backgrounds. What's your shirt say? Kirsten, what's your shirt say?
Oh, I believe. Hang on, let me cut back over since we're fading in. There we go.
Oh boy.
It's always fun that we're live. The mics are hot, but the music is playing on the live stream. So, well, welcome.
Mics are hot and we are not.
Yeah, that's right. Welcome to today's Microsoft Community Office Hours, episode 38. 38 weeks
Middle age.
of doing this, yeah. So, let's see. It's the how many weeks has it been since we've had an accident here in the shop?
I think we had to reset the clock a while back.
Yeah,
but,
agreed. Well, thanks for everybody for joining. If you're watching on one of the live streams, we're live streaming on Facebook, on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter via Periscope. If you have questions that you'd like us to field in today's, we've got a number that are lined up. But if you'd like to ask a question and maybe there will be a relevant, helpful answer, possibly, you can email us at officehours@collabtalk.com. And of course, you can comment in one of those locations. I'm actively watching the Facebook and YouTube discussions. So you can comment in either of those places and I will respond and add them into the mix here. So good morning, everyone.
good morning.
Good morning.
For homework, I had the task of adding a disclaimer so that we can run at the beginning of the program. So I'm going to run that now. There we go. And there's Riz. And
Almost on time.
hey, Eric, I just shared the new disclaimer, which is on the live stream right now. So no animals, children, or mimes were harmed during this broadcast, of course. And I do like to make that case that we're experts on some topics, but certainly not all topics, and we do our best. But I put in that line, for telephony or unified communications questions, all guidance is provided at your own risk. And then,
Guidance should be in quotes.
and then, of course, if you experience a system outage, you start bleeding from the eyes or ears due to advice shared, or have a sudden urge to line dance, we recommend that you induce vomiting and contact your physician and/or IT pro immediately. So, with that, yeah.
Now, Christian, as I am in Canada, you will have to provide that in French as well.
That's right. So we've got translation of French and Mandarin on its way. So
I can help you with the French translation.
And,
Mandarin, you're on your own.
yeah, we might have a phrase or two in there in like Tagalog and maybe like Hindi.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I got my first from Sean in with being here within 3 minutes. My day is accomplished now. I can go back to sleep.
Yeah,
I'm good.
well done. Thank you.
Yes, the over-under is 2 minutes and 58 seconds.
Do
You are still
the
under.
Costanza. Like, thank you, good night. Leave on the high. All right.
Mike, is it nighttime where you are?
Is it nighttime? No.
It's getting dark.
I don't have any lights on. I like working in the dark.
Do you see the white light? Do we want to talk about this?
I like working in the dark, man.
Well, very
That's how
cool.
I like it.
And Shari, welcome. I know you're gonna be available next couple of weeks as well.
I do believe so. I'd
Awesome.
be happy to join you.
Yeah, we've got a few folks that are like Shari that are just like, I know that you do training. You're sometimes at client sites and otherwise predisposed, but not like the rest of us. We got nothing else going on. So.
I
Ease
was
into the week of the
planning-
webcast.
We're going into the dead season though, for as far as training goes. It kind of falls into hold till about February. So.
Yeah. Eric, you were saying?
Yeah, sorry. For me, around 2:30, 2:35 or so, I make an adventure up to get the mail.
Oh, that's nice.
It's basically just opening my front door, getting the mail from the mailbox, closing the mailbox and the door, and then opening up a bunch of flyers. And that's really as far as I go these days. It's very exciting.
I had
About
my
2:30 is when I head up to the bedroom to take a nap.
I had my big adventure this morning at about an hour ago. It was
And that happens 3-4 times a day?
5 or 6 times a day walking the dog. It's currently I think it was 17 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's not a cloud.
Better you than me.
Yeah, it's supposed to snow here by the end of this week and into next week. So we'll see if that happens. But right now it's like there's no clouds. There's a little bit of inversion going on. The mountains just look like they're carved out of ice, and it feels like that walking on the valley floor here. So yeah.
In Russia, dog walk you.
Yes.
Sounds like a trek through Siberia.
I walked him without. He's not wearing any kind of sweater. He's a mini pen mix. My theory there was that he would want to come in quicker if he did not have a sweater on, and I think I was correct. Science, people, come on. Cold dog, shorter walk. All right.
Well, it's only going to be 70 here today. Blue skies.
You're killing me, Hal.
Come visit, fool.
Yeah.
Not like I won't share it.
That's right.
Fair point.
Oh, was there any other homework? Anything that we need to handle up front?
Not homework, but how about new service announcements?
Oh yeah, share.
Yeah. All right. So Teams, everybody's been waiting for Teams to get their guest configuration. Guess what? They announced February 8th, 2021 is the day that they'll be turning on
Yay.
guest access in Teams by default.
Sweet.
So
Yeah,
until February 8th.
I saw that. Most people that don't have it configured, and then I feel like it's one of those complaints. People's like, why can't I go in and do this? Well, you've not gone in and turned that on, and so now to enable that by default, and so admins need to be aware of that change that's coming, and if they are a little bit more tightly controlled on that process. Yeah, we're taking live support calls, apparently, people.
Yeah.
In our Arizona support center.
His other line, sometimes you hear him, Hal will be like, MTA Trucking, how may I help you?
I told you not to call me on this phone.
All right.
In other news,
Yeah.
They've been trying
Okay.
to reach me about my car warranty.
Important stuff. Awesome.
And do you need your air vents cleaned too? I
They haven't said so, but God, who knows?
Yeah, that's mine. I apparently have very dirty air vents in my
Ah.
life.
Yes.
What about that
Clean up.
extra insurance on your credit cards that you don't actually need? I can get 15 people to call you in the next hour to offer you that.
Yeah.
Mike, you were saying, was there any other announcements you want to mention?
Oh yeah, they're just updating the profile menu, relocating the links that are in your menu, so it's going to change. That's coming in January, and they are finally announcing the end of IE11. Yay! IE11's been out since 2013, believe it or not, and August 17th of 2021, IE11 will be DOA.
Stake it through the heart. About time.
So has everybody made the switch over to Edge browser?
Nope.
Yes. Yes.
I will say that I'm using a Chromium-based browser in some form.
Yeah.
I echo Sean.
I'm
Here's the good answer. It depends.
Yep.
Browser
our
for
disclaimer.
me is Edge first, Firefox second, and Chrome third.
Depends on what works. I mean,
That is exactly correct.
Edge just doesn't. I'm sorry, but Edge just doesn't still work on some stuff.
Yep.
Yep.
It
Which is
doesn't.
why I still have the 3 browsers.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the frustrating thing. Is like doing little tasks, like anything that I do on my WordPress site, my blog. It has problems. Edge has problems, and so I default over to Chrome.
But so does Chrome. I mean, Chrome. I've been experiencing problems with the latest updates of Chrome, where I get blank pages. I'll go over and use Edge, or I'll use a variation of Chrome, and no problems at all. So it's all hit or miss.
Yeah, for me, the fun part is forms, and it depends. You go someplace and you need to fill out a form. You fill out the form, you hit the save button or the whatever, and it just sits there and stares at you. So let's try the other 2 browsers, and one of them, when you hit the save button, it will save. So
And I
Mine
still
isn't
got.
like that.
I just went to a very popular banking site over the weekend, like International, and they still are prompting for Flash.
Oh,
nice. Hi.
That'll be fun.
The 80s called. They want their cutting-edge web technology back.
Yeah, baby.
Was there an animated GIF with a song playing on the front of their website?
Oh no! It just kept on that little puzzle piece in the bar that shows up that you have to enable Flash or manage Flash or whatever. I'm like, oh my god.
For me, the deal breaker is the profile switching. If I try and use Edge and try and use their different profiles, it still prompts me every time I hit a Microsoft site. Do you want to be this person or do you want to be that person?
Right.
It's like, well, I picked the person that I wanted to be, and apparently you don't recognize that. So
Yeah.
Be what you want to be.
You would
Exactly.
The art.
It's an Oingo Boingo song. Who do you
Yeah.
want to be today?
Daniel.
Now you're dating yourself, Christian.
I know.
Oingo, there's a throwback.
It's a dead man's party.
I just remember when I was 13, and there was a girl that
Oh, good grief.
a girl that I liked, and I just remember overhearing her say, "It's like, oh, that's
I'll be back."
That's that kid that listens to Oingo Boingo in NXS," and that was like and it was supposed to be like a burn
A
on
dig.
me. Yeah, it was like that was 1984. I'm like,
Interesting fact. I saw Oingo Boingo open for the Eurythmics, Annie Lennox,
Oh,
and
wow.
the Eurythmics.
oh yeah,
Wow,
Yeah.
that would have great.
Rosemont
choice.
Horizon in Rosemont, Illinois.
Nice.
Oingo Boingo kind of sucked, but the Eurythmics were awesome.
yeah. I've been a fan for a long time. I mean, since the second album, since Nothing to Fear. So what was that? 82, 83. And
that was right at the same time. Yeah.
and they would play all the time in the Bay Area. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, and they would play all the time. And I never saw them live. I'm a huge Danny Elfman fan in his career, and I would have loved to have gone and seen them, but yeah. Anyway, well, let's jump into it with question number 1. This one comes from Steven. says, what plugin or native feature can I use in Teams to allow people to schedule appointments? Ideally, I would open up times and they would have a link to view options, then select one.
That's bookings if they have the right licensing. I don't know if it applies to all the licensing, but it's not in Teams, but it does give them a link and it does synchronize their calendar, which will also affect their Teams calendar. So
It's an app available in Teams, so you can bring it in as an app. So.
Oh, can you? Okay, that's good.
Is anybody else doing that and managing their calendar via Teams? I mean, I still do things via Outlook, and that's where you have the robust apps, and it will. I mean, if you're doing all of your scheduling your meetings in Teams, you can do that via Outlook, and then so you have all those tools and those controls. So if then somebody schedules a meeting with you, and by default, it can create a Teams meeting and show up on the Teams calendar.
So that's somewhat scary.
Teams. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just going to say that's somewhat scary. I mean, if Teams is going to be the center of your world, yeah, no, I'm not in line with that.
I will use Teams calendar to launch a Teams meeting. That's okay, but I will not do any scheduling through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I echo that. But I do use bookings for my clients to book a meeting with me, and you can turn off the ability to create a Teams meeting with that booking if you want to. So you can turn that on or off, and either it'll just book your calendar, or it'll create the Teams meeting either way.
Do you have?
It's worked out really well.
Shari, do you know? Does that also support Skype still? Because there's still a lot of people that are using Skype and using those capabilities. Well, they have that default for Skype meetings and Outlook and stuff there. I don't know if Bookings has that capability as well.
Just not on my side. They can still join via Skype, but of course they're joining the Teams link via Skype, but it doesn't allow you to create a Skype meeting. But I don't have that. I don't even have, what's the parallel mode, the dual mode, where you can do both. I don't have that turned on.
Well, I know I see that question a lot. And so for organizations where people are still using Skype, and you do have that ability to control that with calendar meetings in Outlook. But I don't believe you can do that in Bookings if that's an issue.
Yeah.
So going back for a second to using Teams to manage your calendar, as a Mac guy and someone who has multiple accounts pulling into Outlook, Outlook gets really dumb on which buttons are supposed to show me based on the credentials that go along with that particular account. So instead of showing me, like, invite to a Teams meeting, I'm in calendar, it just shows me nothing, which means I have to go back to Teams to manage the calendar. So I do it there. The new updated version of Outlook for Mac is smarter. It does allow me to invite from Teams and have all those buttons up there, but it is not connected yet to IMAP or POP3 accounts.
Really?
So win on that side, lose on the other side. Yeah, it's basically Exchange only, as far as I can tell.
Ouch.
Damn.
So
that's damn near useless.
They're working on it, and they appreciate your feedback. But for now, yeah. So it's a little messy, but I do use Teams to manage calendars, and it's once you get used, like anything else, once you get used to it, it's not such a pain. It's pretty easy.
I do think we need to. This is just kind of an aside here, but just made me think. MTA Trucking, may I help you?
I told you never to call me here.
I like roast beef and Diet Coke.
But is it for all of us that have morning beverages of some kind or another? I've got mineral water here, and but we should implement the.
Sure it is.
Yeah,
mineral water, right? I almost
look at the fumes coming off of that mineral water.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Smirnoff made mineral water. Is that?
I was going to say that we should implement the drinking game rules. So when you have high traffic acronyms that are used and other phrasing, so Eric, you just used 2. I know intentionally, but that would have been 2 sips. I'm just going to throw that out there as an idea that everybody have a beverage nearby. And whenever you feel like, if I said the word telephony, that would be one.
Beverage bingo.
Right.
Which words did I use, Buckley?
I just the ones that you feel like it'll just be kind of an unofficial poll of how many of us think that that's a high traffic, highly used keyword.
Yeah,
Overused.
cliches, overused technical terms,
Yeah, that's great feedback.
I'll
Mike.
buy that for $1.
Yeah.
That's great
That's
feedback.
great feedback. Yep.
Does anyone, Sean, were you there that MVP summit when we actually did that?
We've done that a couple times.
We took over the second, third, and fourth rows of the particular room we were in, and every time specific words were used, one had to enjoy a beverage.
I'll take
I
that.
seem to
I'll
recall
take
that
that
coming up in a Slack channel.
Yeah, I'll take that as an action item.
That's great feedback, Mike.
Right. Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, I recall now.
All right.
Uh-huh.
So, question is that, in fact, that was at the Mixer, wasn't that? Was that upstairs at the Mixer for that summit?
I feel like we do it every time.
Yeah, we have. But I remember that there was one in particular for the SharePoint MVPs that we would always kind of be at the Mixer upstairs in one of those giant rooms. Yeah, and where
I've got a picture of that.
A good portion of the MVPs in that audience were doing the drinking game. It was pretty funny. I'm trying to remember if we did that during Teeper, if he caught on and may have then intentionally used a bunch of phrases. I just seem to recall that happening.
So one time,
yeah.
Go ahead, Riz.
Sorry, I was just saying. One time, the first time, no. The second time, he knew. He would like push a button with his foot, and things would happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just for our listening audiences, the SharePoint group MVPs, they kind of put themselves up on a pedestal
where we belong.
The rest of the MVPs really don't congregate with them. They don't like to mix.
We don't let you in.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
We aren't aware of all these fun things that happen. We're just on our own doing other things.
What do you mean by pedestal? What do you mean, Mike?
The cloud and data center and Azure folks are just out there drinking. You guys are like playing games. We're just drinking.
Excuse me while I take a drink from a mug that has my face on it. There we go.
I believe this is the one. I just dropped it in the chat window.
Oh, pictures? You're not supposed to take any pictures. I can't confirm or deny that I was ever there.
All right, you guys ready for question number 2?
Yeah.
Well, we're on 2.
Focus. I know we're only on number 2.
We got question 2.
So Prem.
Strong answer number 1.
So Prem says for live events, how can I invite 600 to 1,000 people outside of organization? Do I create a group first? So what can they do to invite 600 to 1,000 people to a live event in Teams?
600 to 1,000 of your closest friends.
Well, unless you want to sit there and click and create email addresses until you're blue in the face, it would probably be beneficial to create a list of some sort.
Or PowerShell.
Yeah, but you can't PowerShell a meeting invite.
No, but you could do it for the list. You could transcribe.
Right. You can create the list, but you can't. My understanding of the Teams PowerShell module is you still can't initiate a meeting invitation from PowerShell, where you could programmatically add all those people, and do that.
Does the latest iteration of the graph module for PowerShell have that kind of support?
I don't know that, but I can tell you that the Teams PowerShell module is very limited as is. I mean, it's brand new, basically. They only came out with it 2 months ago, I think. So
yeah, that's why I'm asking about the.
Yeah, I don't know that.
They just released 1.2.
I'm not sure that there's much, if anything, that's necessary for 1,000 people. The folks I consult for just had a live meeting, and then they came a day or two later, came to me and said, how can we figure out who attended? And there are methodologies. I found a couple of different ways. You have a live meeting, you can figure out who was there. But from the standpoint of him having to create 1,000 invites, Seems to be, it's like you just make one invite that's generic and everybody gets it.
But I think part of the question is that from a team's perspective, they're talking about creating a group. So they just have to, create a meeting invite and then invite that group. So once you create the list, you have to take that list, bring it into a group, and then create the invite and add the group.
Is that what people are doing for? I mean, look, when I have people that are external, because he's asking about external participants.
Yeah.
I generally don't go and add them, go through those steps of adding them into Teams. I'll create that Teams meeting or that live event with that external link, and then do all of that via Outlook.
Yeah, see, he wants to do it all in Teams, is what the gist that I'm seeing here from a live event, and not doing it via Outlook. But we can make that recommendation to him and say, maybe you should be using Outlook to do this.
Yeah.
All right. So look, I'm a little bit biased. I mean, as we've talked about before, I mean, I'm not using the live events for these large broadcast things, and I'm using webinars. I'm using a different technology. Zoom. Excuse me.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. But that's specifically for webinars. For all other meetings, for things that are more focused, it's all in the Teams meeting. So I'm not the best person to ask about the live events, just because it's not been a great experience for me to go in and produce live events yet. So. Question number 3. Tom asks, hi there, my wife has an interview and they've sent her an invite to a Teams meeting. When she starts Teams, it says she can't use it if she's not a business, nor is her email from a school. Is her best bet to tell them that it isn't possible? I've tried on my tracks, but I don't have a meeting option.
Well, she's not using a free, you can create a free account.
I think that
obviously she's not taking that step, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she just, I don't have I've not seen that screen. I've seen people report this. So they don't have a Microsoft ID. They've not gone in and built any kind of profile inside of Teams. And so there's a couple additional steps, and people say, well, this is from the last question where you have anonymous access to that live event and that generic link. For this interview, for this meeting, they're a named user. They need to have a profile created. So there are a couple additional steps to be able to join that. Yeah. But it's still free.
The bigger question here is, how did they get this far in life without a Microsoft ID?
Yeah.
I mean, really, in some form, whether you got an Xbox or just anything, you need a Microsoft ID.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. So, yeah, I think that's the answer, is to go in and create the profile. Again, it's free, and you have that for any other meetings. And in theory, if your wife gets hired by this company, you're going to need to have a Microsoft ID. So you'll be using it in the future. It's a good thing to have.
But of course, at that point, they'll make her create one for the organization.
Correct.
And then, like the rest of us, you'll have more than 2. So.
Yeah. But as Microsoft announced, they're gonna answer that whole personal and work issue, and have that improve that multi-login in a way.
When I see it.
Yeah.
They did
God is my witness. I thought turkeys could fly.
Yeah.
You announced that 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm actually monitoring a Teams calling workshop that's going on this week, and they were just announcing that again today, that they had the Teams for Life, which was your personal account that you could create, and then they had the easier user switching or profile switching live, so that you didn't have to hang up, log out, log in, and then switch it on.
Is that Hal until it's in front of me? I'm not.
What does that mean? It's Teams for Life. It's like a shackle around your. It's like I would like to remove.
The tattoo you get when you join the gang.
It just comes with the chip that's implanted within your hand. It's
That's a tap.
it's part of the
It's a tap.
5G
Tap.
whole thing, you know. And you have that. You're innovated. You're inoculated against every disease that's out there. So, yeah.
And marketing jargon.
You got to get the ink. You got to get the ink to go along with it, you know.
Cool.
And the barcode, so they can just scan you when when you want to enter the Teams meeting, you hold your barcode up to the camera.
It sounds like, Mike, you've had some experience with this.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah, I'll have to say
the future of technology.
I'll have to say that the QR code on my right buttock is inconvenient for scanning going into meetings. It leaves the wrong impression on other participants.
Did not need to hear that.
All right, question number 4.
Well, and on the other side, somebody has to scan that somehow. So there's a whole.
That's what I'm saying. It makes it awkward. It makes it awkward. The wrist would have been better for that.
When you go through and do all the tagging for who said what in the session, I'd like you to title this particular session "Christian Gets Cheeky." 38 minutes and 39 seconds. Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, the QR code goes to a now defunct MySpace website, but you live and learn.
There it is again.
Question number 4. Karen asks, I have a list on SharePoint with several different data columns. Between these columns, I have 3 different day count columns. So one for current day, time of occurrence, and deadline that updates all days. On this list, some employees, according to their interest in the item, signed up to receive notifications whenever that ID changed through the Alert Me SharePoint function. However, it became a problem because they want to receive only the update made by a person and not an update made by the computer, which is the update of the count of days. This problem is generating a lot of complaints because of the 3 columns of dates. They receive 3 consecutive emails by ID. Imagine who signed up to receive alerts in more than 4 IDs. You were receiving 12 emails all days. Any suggestions?
Well, the first question I would have is when they say update made by computer, what exactly do they mean? Do they mean the system account or something else? And then second is, alerts, like many other things in SharePoint, run off differences in change tokens. And I don't know that it's smart enough or granular enough to get down to that level. They might have to write some intermediate process that gets the alert, and then based on who has sent it, the system account is differentiated from a standard user account. They could do that and then send it alert, but I don't think that happens directly from the alert process.
I think it's simpler than that. It's the alert happens to any change happening to the record, and there's nothing more granular. So I'm not aware, like out of the box, not aware of anything. I started kind of digging into researching this. I didn't have an answer. I didn't spend much time, maybe 5 minutes, searching around for this. I didn't find anything obvious and was hoping maybe this team would have additional insights.
Like you said, the change token fires regardless of what changed. It's an update to a list item, not a field in a list item particularly. So what they'd have to do is write that intermediate process, which gets a notification for every change and then somehow has some logic in it to differentiate which change they're interested in and then send it out. It's not as simple as just creating a particular type of alert.
Could that be something that could be done in Power Automate?
Yeah.
Maybe? Yeah.
I assume so.
But the if-then statement in that would be no fun.
Yeah. Well, that's somebody else's logic nightmare to deal with.
Yeah.
SharePoint's not going to do it for you.
So not out of the box.
Yeah, this is one of those answers where you really need to go and experiment, try a few different things. Yeah, there's just I don't know anything else we have to add to that. other than you need to go and experiment, try a few different things, see what works. Yeah, not so helpful. Sorry, Karen. Question number 5. Stacy says, "Hi, everyone. I'm trying to find an email from 2 years ago, and my email only goes back as far as 12 months. Is there any way to find older emails?"
What kind of email client do we have, and what kind of email account are we talking with here? If it's an Exchange account or an IMAP account, all that stuff's on the server. Your client is probably set to show you the last 12 months of it. You should still be able to search what's on the server. But if all else fails, you whip up the web front end for your mail system and go find it there, because it'll be on the server. Unless you got a POP account. And if you got a POP account and it only goes back 12 months, I'm afraid you're screwed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's standard behavior too. And if we're talking about Outlook and Exchange-based email, you're going to do a search, and it'll, at the end of the results, will say, "Hey, there's additional results, on the server," and you can
on the server, yes.
And it'll bring back and refresh those things. So it's just what's local, what's in cache, and then what you can go and search on. But like you said, I've done this before where I've gone back into, and I'm a one-person company, so I've gone back in and looked for. In fact, I just did this last week. Was looking for email conversations that I had at the end of 2016, and was able to find them. So.
Yep. Yeah.
I have a little trick. I create a search folder in my Outlook. So the search folders, you can say, look for old items, and then you designate what old is. And then at least that would limit how much of a result she's getting. And it might surface it naturally. We'll see. But
Good point. Good point.
I love those search folders. I've got a number I started flattening my Outlook folder structure, and tagging with those search folders is what made it possible.
it's one of my best friends. And then it's easy to clean stuff out because you don't have to go back and look everywhere. You can say, give me everything past 5 years, and look at it, just kind of, glance through it and say, yep, delete all that. I don't need it anymore, whatever your time frame is.
I've done that where I've gone back and so I just flatten those folders. And so I have, like a lot of people, I have some of my operational for my company, and I'll have like customer folders in place, which is great when there's an active project and kind of segregating that content. But what I'll do after time is once I finish those contracts, is then I'll then just dump all of those just into a one customer's folder. So there's still segregation from the inbox. But just to flatten that and make search a lot easier.
I put the link to the support article to create a search folder if people don't know how to do that in the chat.
You got it there. See it there.
Yeah.
And
Shari, when you start, because of your background, when you start talking and gesturing with your right arm in particular, it disappears from your shoulder to your elbow.
Okay.
And all we see is your forearm kind of moving around. It's sort of freaking me out.
You telling me I need to change my background? Something less fun?
I just thought you should be aware.
Okay. I'm doing the Cheshire Cat thing? Okay.
Do you feel any pain?
I do not. Yeah. It's fairly painless for me, but apparently not for Riz.
It's fun to call it out,
It's cool.
Let's see. Joshin, Yakin, asked a question. Somehow it was possible for a student to react to an announcement within a faculty team. It's within the same organization, the school, but the student obviously is not a member of the faculty team. I checked his account. This shouldn't be possible. Any ideas what went wrong?
Can you imagine what I said to get such a response?
So you have a teacher that has a Post-it note on their monitor with the password, and the student sees it and logs into Teams as a teacher. Wow, that's
My first thought was that, obviously it's all permissions based, that somebody added the student in mistakenly.
Or the student somehow, and I got to tell you, because I work with computer science students in high schools, they're quite a few really, really smart ones that can do some damage if you let them.
It's true.
Yeah. Not that any of us would have ever have done anything like that.
But we didn't have the opportunity to when we were in high school. I mean, I had Apple IIs that I was working on in high school. No, couldn't really hack into those, but now,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's a game to them. It's to see who can get in.
Yeah,
We didn't have networking until we got to college.
I love some of those stories where you hear, especially when COVID started and schools were going virtual, and you'd hear of the really creative ways that students were getting out of stuff, like putting as their default to their screen their image, like trying to connect, and they just really smart ways of doing it. So
creating videos of themselves and then having that as their background.
Yep.
And legitimately it works. I mean, they're not, they're not dumb. They'll find a way.
That's actually what I did, Mike. I'm not actually here right now. I just have this really well
I believe that.
timed and taped.
That would explain your replies.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's remarkable because they're relevant. Eric's responses, they're just not high quality. So,
You remember the old List program, Eliza?
Wow.
Oh my gosh, Sean. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Riz is our Eliza in modern day.
Wow.
I know not of what you speak, Sean.
Oh. He wasn't around in that era.
No.
Probably not.
I was going back to what Christian said earlier about what he was doing in 82, 83, and I was thinking those were good years for me. I mean, I learned to walk, like critical things were happening.
some of us were in school doing other things. So, all right. Well, let's jump to question number 7. I have a mailbox with an in-place archive. The in-place archive was almost full, and I wanted to purge everything older than 5 years from the in-place archive. I found some procedure online to create a retention policy with a 5 years delete permanently rule and to set it on the mailbox itself. According to the procedure, this would also purge emails older than 5 years from the archive. Right? But this seems to not be working since the archive is full. So he's created the rule, but by default, is the rule only act on things that are new coming in, or do you still have to push it out to the current site for it to go and purge anything that's 5 years old?
Doesn't
You
do
also have
in-place
to run it.
evaluation. Yeah.
Is it a user mailbox or a site mailbox?
I don't know. Silent voice coming from the ghost world. Hey, Bob.
Yeah. I became fashionably late. I've never been able to do that before, but I think, today's fashionably late.
That's Riz's gig.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, man.
Yeah. Rob, you're unfashionably late at this point, but
Oh, man. Got to go back to high school again. Anyway, yeah. So you don't have to actually set those rules to execute. As soon as you set them up, they run, but they take like 14 days or something really stupid to start executing. The lag on them is just really, really bad. So you need to make sure that the mailboxes are targeted, and that's in the wizard. So depending upon where you targeted that rule for. And then the only other thing is, develop patience, because it may take it a week or two to go execute like it's supposed to.
time won't give me time, but time makes the lovers feel like they've got something real. But you and me, we know we got nothing but time. Anybody name that band? That would be Culture Club. Sorry.
Oh, it was right there. I'm like,
Also from that 1983-84 era. Yeah.
Here we go.
Search folders might be a band-aid for Danny too. I don't know, because it would pull everything older than that. But
Well, at least you know what to look for that should be purged. But I think you're right. Rob's answer was a modified version of "Have you tried turning it off and on again?" Is that patient, like wait for things to run? But yeah, because it sounds like all of the components are there. It's just I didn't realize there was that much of a lag.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Huh. All right, Danny, come back to us in 2 weeks. Let us know if the problem still persists.
Danny, come back.
All right, question number 8. Mark asks, is there a way to prohibit participants on a Teams meeting to mute other participants? So to stop people from muting other people.
well, if they all come in by default as a presenter, which is the setting, then you can mute. But I don't believe one participant can mute another participant if they just come in as not a presenter, correct? Am I right or wrong? Let's test that theory.
I believe so. Try to mute me. I've been muted.
I was muted.
Yeah, it works just fine.
Yeah.
Well, so but I think the question is, can you prevent people from doing the muting, right?
Right.
And so my answer to that, hang on, Shari. Let's see. Can you knock people down to guest? No, you can't. Because guests can't do it.
Right. Yeah, is there control when you set up, I mean, as part of a, your meeting settings that only the admin or only the presenter can mute and unmute people? Isn't that a control?
I just saw something new on the Teams meeting, like the meeting options, something about that, but I don't remember what it is. Let me test on my other.
There's also a new setting in the participants list about don't allow attendees to unmute.
That's what it is. Unmute. They can't unmute themselves. That's what it is.
They get put in timeout.
Permanent timeout.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like if people have the ability to, I mean, if you're actively in a meeting, they've already got the control. There's nothing that you can do to make a change in that current session. And then that control is limited. You've got to do that within those meeting settings.
Yeah, that's something that's been missing. The in meeting, once the settings and the meeting is started and you can't change anything, that's really frustrating. Like somebody else sets the meeting up for me because I'm teaching for them, and they don't turn the lobby off. And I'm stuck in I'm supposed to be setting up for the class, and I'm stuck in the lobby.
Stuck in the lobby, yeah.
And there's nothing once you've joined it that will allow them to change that. You have to do it beforehand. So,
Locked out of the classroom.
Yeah. You're teaching, but you're not. You have to ask and sit there and knock, knock, knock.
Find the janitor with the keys.
That is a setting that you can establish. You say, I never want, turn off the lobby for meetings. But is there a way to do that? So if that's by default off, is it with this setup when you create a meeting to turn the lobby, that flag to turn it on again?
During the meeting or beforehand?
Beforehand.
You can change the setting either way beforehand.
Okay.
You just have to... the meeting options link is not there in Teams until after you create the meeting. Then you have to go back in and edit it. It's not there by default. And that's when the chat and the files and all of that show up across the top of the Teams meeting panel. I don't know why, but if you created an Outlook, it creates the link in the Outlook invite for the meeting options automatically. I don't know why it doesn't do it in Teams. But I think they should just be there. Here's the options. Do you want to turn this on or off? Because otherwise people forget, or they don't know. They have to go back in and edit the meeting and then change the settings because they're not looking for them. Very common question I get in the recent trainings I've been doing. So it's a thing.
Such great user experience.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, who designed that?
Well, kind of in this vein of questions, the next one, number 9, Kiem asks, so I know there are announcement options for Microsoft Teams, but does anyone know if we can do friendly reminders or tips widgets for end users that pops up on their screens without interfering with their work? So first, I'll just say that that phrasing of friendly reminders or widgets that pops up on their screen, like
Clippy.
like, and then ask, can you do that without interfering? It's like, no, to interrupt them with something is by definition interfering with their work. Yeah.
Yeah.
What they're asking though is something that I've seen, and I don't know a lot of people. I don't know if anybody on the call has, but I mean, if anybody's been using bots in their team environments, because they do have bots that you can use that will do this type of thing. That a manager can send out an announcement via a announcement bot to his team members, and can, it'll pop up that box in the right hand corner. And it'll, give you the whatever announcement you want, or it'll pop it up in the team window.
Yeah.
But those are just bots that are created by the Power Apps. Yeah. They're documented online. And there's one that I know that a friend of mine uses at work. It's called, I think it says Zen something. But anyways, it integrates with ServiceNow. And when they get tickets,
Zendesk.
the bot, yeah, it could be. Zendesk?
Zendesk. I was going to say Zendesk.
Okay, but it integrates with Teams. I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, it's a
sound-
third-party app in Teams as well. There's an API for that.
Yeah, so it pops up a thing in the corner whenever they get a ticket. It's kind of the same philosophy. I mean, if you can track down a bot that'll do your announcements for you, which I'm sure there are ones out there, even in the App Store, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, because you could then go and create so you might have those admin capabilities. If you as an organization want to have something where a limited number of people can go in there and add those tips and promote those out to your employees, you can always go and create and name a bot specifically for that, give a subset of permissions to a small group of users to be able to do that.
Yeah, there's one here called Celebrations that I'm looking at right now. It's on GitHub. It allows you to celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, and other recurrent events, but it also allows you to send announcements. So, you just have to do a little searching, and I'm sure you'll find it. That one's called Celebrations. The one that I'm sorry, the one that it wasn't Zendesk. It's called Zen Duty. That's the one I was looking for. Kind of like Zendesk, but does the same thing probably, but it's called Zen Duty.
Is that DUTY?
Yep, not duty, not that Caddyshack. Duty.
I find that I find that being specific, is important.
That's funny. I've got the link here. Yeah.
Y'all are killing Sean today. He's over there dying.
Now, Shari, the goal is always to get him to shoot liquids out of his nose. It doesn't happen often. It's really all about timing.
Oh, Christian, I thought you were going to
challenge noted.
I thought you were going to post a picture of a baby Ruth bar.
Posted that link out there to that app. So, yeah, awesome. Let's see. Number 10, Anna says, I've created a list from a form in SharePoint. How to set the column to be edited only by a selected person. We've had this question before.
There's lots of options in that. You can create a view that only that person sees, and then you just remove that that field from the form itself. So it's like maybe office use only type thing is what I'm thinking, where people fill out a form and then whoever's behind the scenes has to fill in the rest of it. I don't know.
That's
Am I
security
interpreting
through
that correctly?
obscurity, though.
Yeah.
There is no way to actually maintain permissions in a way that at the field level. You can only get down to the item level.
Right, and
unless you have a third-party tool.
Yeah, there's ways you can do it without. But anybody's smart enough, they're going to figure out a way around it. So. Yeah.
So, Sean, do you know of a third-party tool that will allow you to lock that down and restrict that?
I can't think of the one. I've only had to look at this in the case of one client before, but I cannot remember it. I'll see if I can dig that up.
Okay. Quizcom does that.
Do they?
Yeah, Quizcom. KWIZ.
Yeah.
COM. Yeah. There's a lot of functionality in Quizcom that I'm like, where's this been all our life, SharePoint team? We've been asking for this, like to be able to secure a view, for example. There's some really cool stuff that their tool does.
Hey, Shari, can you find that link to that tool and share that? That'd be great to do. We're all about sharing links that, again, with ISVs. They're a great ISV partner. They've been in the community for a long time and do some really great stuff. So I know Sarah well, from all the conferences and stuff, but they do a great job.
I was just going to say Sarah will definitely appreciate the referral.
Yeah.
She's great.
So that question has come up a couple times, and our answer was the same here. Although last time we didn't talk about third-party solutions for that. So that's good.
There's a link to a relevant article on SharePoint Exchange. Somebody asking about it, and their top reference there was Quizcom.
Stuff that should have been built into the product 15 years ago that they should.
Maybe that
but
adds
I'm not,
a hell of a lot of overhead.
Yeah, there's a lot that's out there. So,
like item level permissions, if you implement those broadly on a SharePoint Online site, you kill your performance.
Right, and it'd be just a nightmare to do governance for that, to track that. So, that falls into the can you, or should you?
Yeah. Lots of things you can do.
I would like to have the option.
What's that latest link? What is that? Oh, just the Quizcom specifically? Okay.
Yeah, somebody asked
the add-on specifically. Yeah.
All right. I'll share that link as well.
They have the first one has like the field constraints in there, but the second one is specifically to the field and column permissions.
Okay. All right. Question number 11. Harshal asked, I have a strange issue with Teams for one user. His Teams status shows offline always. He has to change it to online manual. Have you guys faced such an issue in your organization?
That may be intentional.
He's messing with you.
Well, if you set your status manually at any time, it stays that indefinitely until you reset the status. So you have to go in and find your presence indicator and under your profile and reset it, and then it should start reading his calendar again, I would think, unless there's something else I don't know about.
You also have duration now too, where you can set your status for a period of time and walk away. And you can be online, but not really be online.
You call that stealth mode, the appear away.
Yeah, so that's, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Well, reading that again, it says offline always, which is that's not even one of the options, is it? To show to be offline?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Here.
We're all going to do it.
I know, right? Oh, it is now. Okay. I see it. Yeah, he probably did that at some point. He went into stealth mode. Come back.
They still don't allow custom status messages in Teams?
I use them. I teach them and it's a big wow moment for a lot of people.
Yeah. People using that more and more.
Well, I'm working with a government agency that has a lot of people in the field right now, and they're gone for a week, and they need to let people know that they have diminished access to the internet at that time, and just being away or not away isn't enough, and that really helps. And make sure you check the little check box that says appear. Make sure this appears. Show when people message me, because then it shows as a banner on the text field when they try to chat with them.
The leave me alone. Leave me the hell alone box. Yeah.
It's the other half of one of my favorite features I used to talk about was a Skype feature, but it was I would get the notifications of so my 4 adult children, and I had them in Skype, and if they came online, if they went active, I would instantly get a notification. Oh, Preston's online, and I would instantly chat with him. And I just remember he was just amazed. He's like, how did you, I just logged on to check something and jump back off, and you instantly, how did you know that? And I'm like, father's intuition.
I get that from some guy named Moose Wiggle too.
Yeah. What a freak. What kind of name is that? Let's see. For those that don't know, that's my gaming name.
That's his Steam profile name.
Yeah, Moose Wiggle. I don't know why. It's been there for so long.
That's really disturbing, Christian.
Yeah.
Gives me a chuckle each time, though.
Yeah.
Moose Wiggle.
All right. Let's see. We are at number 12. Jay asks, is it possible to copy a recurring meeting that contains a team meeting block in it to set to a new set of recurring dates? For instance, if I have a year-long one-on-one recurring meeting in 2020, if I copy that meeting invite to Outlook 2021 in January and set it as a new recurrence from January to December of 2021, will a Teams meeting continue to work into 2021? It seems to keep the same conference ID when being copied, so I'm concerned that the end date of the original series will cause the Teams meeting to stop working after X period of time.
I don't know that. I mean, I'm looking at it from a Zoom perspective. Zoom IDs you can use forever.
Yeah.
I'm not aware. I mean, I'm using Zoom IDs from 2 years ago, and I reset up those meetings every year, like you're talking about. But I don't know about Teams. Can you continue to use them?
So I've done that where I've gone in, just changed the date on a Teams meeting. I've changed the parameters, and it's the same meeting. Changed the time, added and removed people, all of that, same Teams meeting.
Well, I haven't even done that. What I'm saying is I've actually taken a meeting that was originally scheduled by someone else, and I taken over the responsibilities for the next year. In 2020, it was in 2019.
Oh, where it is, Bo.
And then I just copied that Zoom ID and put it into a brand new invitation. I did, it's not even linked to the old one.
Yeah.
So it's a brand new invitation, and now I've done it again for 2021. Nothing's broken so far.
But it does retain the chat history, though. So if that person's wanting to start a clean slate, or if they're wanting to retain the chat history, they need to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wondered what other attributes or baggage it might carry with it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I guess it comes down to if the person is trying to maintain that history, then there's a reason for just extending that and changing that, and it should be the same meeting. There should not be a problem with continuing that, setting that existing recurring meeting out for another year and changing the parameters there. But if you want a clean slate, then you need to create a new Teams meeting.
Clear your juvie record.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
It never happened.
I don't know that it's, having the history and stuff that's in there, but if it's a different purpose, if there's different players, different participants that are within that, why you would want to use that same ID. People are pretty good about knowing that, hey, click on the notification because changes could have happened. And so I'm I click on the invite, the reminder of whatever is there in that meeting invite. I don't just have a bookmark somewhere. I get the notification for today's meeting. That's the link I click on. All right. Let's see. So number 13. Luke asks, does anyone know why I would not see the SharePoint sites that are associated with a team show up in a search from the SharePoint homepage? So, for example, I'll create a team called LH Test that includes a private channel called Mortensen Only. When I search for the name, which is the project number in our org, so 00000003, I get the result for the hit 00003 LH Test Mortensen Only SharePoint site, but I do not get a hit for the LH Test SharePoint site that is associated with the original team. I would expect to find both sites.
So I'm actually currently working a defect with support. Owners. So the argument goes that owners are not always in the members group of a team. And the security ACL that church is using is members, not owners. Ergo, you would not see the result because from the point of view of search, you don't have permission. So the short answer is add yourself as a member, see if the problem goes away. I will tell you there's still wackiness going on in there because I'm a member of the particular teams I'm trying to find, and I still can't find them.
And if you choose to use Rob's fix, let search have enough time to go and re-index.
Yeah, it's an
not
ACL.
Show up immediately.
Yeah, it's an ACL change, so it should be prioritized. But yes, you it's not like go make the change, then search immediately. Don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So the other thing is in the advanced settings of a SharePoint site, you can restrict that site from showing up in the search results, and somebody may have done that. May or may not have. Just something to check. But I've had that problem with the document libraries that are in the private channel of Teams. I don't know if anybody has that situation, because I'll throw that out there as an add-on because it's frustrating. It's like I'm a member of all of that and I can't find it. Doesn't show up in like the main SharePoint site as an option.
It has been determined that you don't need that for your work, Luke, so you need to move on.
Organizationally.
Yeah, exactly. Move along now.
So internally, I don't create private channels. If it's just documents, I create another document library with different permissions in the SharePoint site, and then search finds all that stuff. So,
I've got a religious phrase that we use for people that get caught up in the minutia, as you say, not essential to your salvation. Move on.
That's a good way to put it.
I guess it could be so appropriate in the technology sphere.
Salvation-altering events.
There's a shot of the option that Shari was talking about.
I covered that in my LinkedIn Learning Advanced Settings course, because it's just something that people are like, I don't want anybody to be able to find this. I'm like, then turn off the search scope on that.
Yeah, and the same option exists at a library level as well. So if you just want to turn it off at the library.
One of the things, the conversations I always loved having in the SharePoint world was that when there was a new version, when companies migrated or upgraded, was around their search experience. And half the time it was, I'm not seeing what I need to be seeing. The other half was like, I shouldn't be seeing this. And it was like, well, that's all permissions. It's like search is working better now. And it's surfacing your lack of clarity around classification, organization, and permissions. And so you're seeing this stuff because people have access to it, which kind of brings me back to like we were talking last week with Liam and his security presentations. I shared a link in the highlights from last week to some of Liam's work. where he would go in and identify in a live presentation, like, I'm going to go and look just through, I'm not breaking any laws, I'm not breaking any rules, I'm just going to look at public SharePoint sites that should not be public. And yeah, it's just very entertaining to find that. But
yeah, search has a way of driving home that security through obscurity isn't really security at all.
How many of you have been asked to turn search off? Because I have repeatedly.
I've heard that from a number of customers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it go away.
Yeah.
Instead of addressing their permissions issue, they're like, just turn it off so people can't find anything. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those organizations, rather than having just a free-form search, they wanted to build a much more curated experience. Yep. If you're not finding something that you need, come and talk to us and we'll surface it for you. I mean, that's like we used to do back in the database administration days. And so the search was actually done by power users, and everybody else got reports of what those power users, but those dozen people were the only people that we dealt with on the IT side, giving them, because they then knew who should have access, what they should have access to, and they controlled that. Yeah, not a very open, transparent organization that shuts down search. That's not the answer, in my opinion.
I second that motion.
Number 14, Matt asks, so I use Outlook Desktop to schedule meetings and Teams. I have noticed that sometimes in the to-do bar to the far right in Outlook, sometimes these show up with a Join Now button and sometimes nothing. I cannot figure out how to get that button to always appear to join a meeting. So it's that little, that additional card, information that happens sometimes. And I don't know the difference either, other than there are a number of different ways that you can create a meeting and, and how those different options populate the metadata to fill out that view with that and make that Join Now button appear. Like, I don't know. So this would be an interesting test. Like, if I go and if I'm invited to a meeting that arrives via Outlook versus via Teams, and if it arrived via Outlook, was it created? There's a couple different ways with the Outlook add-on, add in the Teams meeting button. If there's a difference between those, or if there's just some other fluke.
And what is your relationship count-wise to that tenant? Are you a member? Are you a guest?
Right.
I think this sounds like Sean homework.
Why me? Good, Mike.
Because you're the only one that does homework.
No, Christian's been known to do homework. Mike's the only one who has had an assignment.
So I'll just add in as part of my homework. Maybe it's appropriate here for those who didn't see it at the beginning. I'll just show the disclaimer on screen again about the quality of the answers provided here.
We're just the idea guys.
And I do like to point out towards
ladies.
the end again, if you experience a system based on the feedback of the advice that we provide, if you experience a system outage, you start bleeding from the eyes or ears, or have a sudden urge to line dance, we recommend that you induce vomiting immediately. Yeah. So, that's just important.
Don't be bashing the line dancers.
I think he was trying to get more people to do it.
Well, I used to compete. I could teach you.
My goal is just to have more people inducing vomiting. So it's just me.
Purge now.
All right,
Can you
Mr.
please
Yuck.
send me that text so that I can convert that into translate it into Spanish and into French. I can't. My country won't allow me to join this anymore if it's not in French.
I will do that, Eric. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Blame Canada. Blame Canada.
Yeah, I had a T-shirt that I got. It was if you guys recall, it was back when TechEd was still around, but Splunk, they did this awesome marketing blitz where they had all of these dozens of different T-shirt designs that various, I guess, employees set up. So one of them that I had that says like "Remember the Ninjas" or something or other ninja related. I love that one. But one of them that I got and I wore for a while, and then it disappeared. I don't know what happened to it. And it just said, but I blame Canada. It was awesome. just, but I blame Canada, and then a giant Splunk logo on the back. It was fantastic.
So I don't know if you know, one of the guys who started that was a guy named Brandon Shell. And believe it or not, he worked for Splunk way back in the day. Him and another guy named Jason Conger. And they started that whole thing with the T-shirts. They sold it to the CEO. And they basically had an internal statement that they were a T-shirt company that sold software. And they literally had, no, I'm not kidding.
It was a great PR
They
tool.
literally had almost 100 different designs, 100 different sayings that they would put on the T-shirt.
Yeah.
Sounds like my dream job.
Well, I was at, so it was Tech Ed in Berlin. And so it was at 2012 or 2013. And they had a table that had like 30 of them, like all out. And so our booth was just adjacent. And so when it was quiet time and tons of them were gone, I picked up the Ninja one, but I just kept looking. I was like, they knew I took one already. And they're like, yeah, you can have one more. I'm like, yes. I blame Canada that I only got a second one. All right, so let's see. Number 15, Patrick says, "Hi, I'm confused. Does the report of 5,000 records for SharePoint lists refer to the limit of the records for only the view? I read at Microsoft that you can save up to 30 million records. Is now only the view? And to what extent does Power Apps now have problems with delegation? All this cannot be bypassed just with filters on special data records, and you can still use all 30 million data records."
The 5,000 item list view is a threshold, and you will not get any request answered with greater than 5,000 items. That list view threshold in SharePoint Online cannot be changed, but it can be changed on-prem. As far as the list goes, you can have any number of records. So the trick is creating a view that constrains the number of records returned, or writing queries that process and return in batch modes with row limits.
Okay.
And the side of the other interesting aspect of that, you may see this even though you think that you should not be hitting it, because you have indexes which also count in your limit numbers, and particularly indexes which have low numbers of unique values inside the index tends to cause that.
Which make the indexes themselves kind of questionable, but...
No, it makes them stupid. But
well, that was what I was putting it on.
I mean, that's a technical term and all, but yeah, it makes them stupid. What, I can't use it when I want it, then why do I have it?
Robert, I thought you had an interesting fake background going on there, and then I saw somebody move behind you. I'm like, oh no, he's somewhere alive. That's pretty cool. Wherever you're at, it's pretty cool.
It's greenery.
Oh yeah, that's it. If he moves over to his right slightly, and then that looks like a halo above his head.
There you
There you
go.
go.
That's the first and only time that will occur.
Well, and if the little lights that are in the jars were then he'd be glowing. He'd have a little glowing halo behind him.
Wow.
All right, so let's jump to, we've got 15 minutes. We might be able to get through the last three here. So G. Souza says, "I've been doing an intervention on SharePoint." I like that. And after a change, some problems started to appear. I solved most problems, but the issue of credentials remains. After connecting the SharePoint calendar to Outlook, a credential screen appears at all times in the Outlook and is always prompted. And then a problem started after I performed this procedure. It has a link. I even had to restore the farm with the backup that I had because the SharePoint was inaccessible. Problem is that SharePoint was not in the Outlook, and as it started to give a problem after the change in the SharePoint, and this happens on all machines, on all users, on all Outlooks. I would like to ask for your help. So it's gone to ask for help in the Office portal, but they said that because it's SharePoint, I should request support on another site. But I was not able to request support on another site. It says that I have to inform the contract, and I did not find this information. So, yeah, apologies for the question. It's obviously it's translation here to English.
And I'm not understanding. First of all, they have interventions for SharePoint.
That part didn't surprise me.
You really need an intervention? Really? Do all the people like Sean and Christian and all the SharePoint folks just get into a room and sit in chairs around in a circle, and
It's
then
been 3 days since my last SharePoint.
I've been SharePoint free for 3 years.
So the problem is, so you have the SharePoint site calendars. They've linked that into Outlook, but now they're getting prompted for credentials every time they're opening Outlook because of that calendar connection.
Right.
I'll admit, my wife and I share a SharePoint resident calendar, and we've got it wired into Outlook. Credentials, honestly, credentials break, and I have not been able to find a solution to it every now and then. Or they break every now and then, and I've not been able to find a solution. I've often had to re-add a calendar. I don't know how Outlook tracks, or rather how SharePoint tracks credentials and how Outlook would store those. And I've seen the problem, or at least what I think is the problem, and I've not found a good answer to what solves it. Anyone else? Did anybody else map calendars into Outlook?
Yeah, I do it all the time, and as long as I've logged into SPO before trying to do anything in Outlook, I'm generally fine because it's sharing that shared off cookie. So it's fine there. I mean, Outlook and passwords is bad in general, but at least for that, as long as I've hit the web first, I'm generally fine.
I do that all the time, and the recently on one of my Outlook profiles, every time I log in, it keeps prompting me for all the credentials for all those connected calendars, and I don't know why. So I had to go in, create a new mail profile in the Windows mail client, and just recreate them all, and killed the other one. I don't know, something corrupted on that profile.
Yeah, I know. The new profile option is like the nuclear option.
Yeah, it's like the Control-Alt-Delete.
Yeah, it'll fix a lot of things. I would just wish Outlook, as far as credentials go, because I mean, you go into Windows credential cache and nuke out the stored claims and refresh tokens and whatnot. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. Detaching, reattaching, adding it as a new, I mean, there's tons of different ways to try and deal with it. Sometimes the permissions change, kicks the necessary gears into working, and that'll do it. So I would just suggest trying different things related to your password to see if you can get that linkage working again. But it is far from ironclad and solid.
That defines Outlook, right?
All Microsoft products before revision 3. Oh, did I say that out loud? That wasn't my voice.
You're muted. It's okay.
Thank you, Rob.
We heard you, but you were still muted.
So question number 17 from Dips 1997. A few questions about migrating from SharePoint 2010 on-prem to SharePoint Online. I'm planning to migrate my SharePoint 2010 to SharePoint Online, but I have a few questions. One, is my connected list, will it migrate as is? And two, can we keep versions data in history after migration?
So 2 is yes. That's easy, right? But what's the connected list problem?
Depending on how you migrate it up there, but it is an option with most tools.
So is it connected list as in probably Access or Excel? He's connected the list someplace like that?
Like
In
a
which case you
VCS
just-
connection.
I don't think BCS. I think just the old, export to Excel and the list remains connected to it. Or if you've got an Access database, you can connect it to a SharePoint list. And if that's the case, then the short version for Access is there's a relink manager that you can go just point it at SPO and it'll be fine.
MTA trucking. How can I help you?
I'm sorry, it's the one ringer I can't turn off.
That joke goes back into my college in the late '80s. The trucking commercials were pretty heavily broadcast on late night television, and so it's like a running joke with my my main college roommate and I. We'll steal it once in a while. Phone will ring somewhere, and either one of us will just say that. MTA trucking. How can I help you? So it's
Pavlovian.
programmed. Yes,
It's Pavlovian.
correct. That's right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So Excel, I think you have to actually manipulate the data connection. I don't think you can reset that one to an SPO directly. I think you've got to delete it and recreate it. But I don't remember. I don't do that often.
I'm wondering if it's like a lookup field. Like when they say connected list, is it maybe it's a lookup from one thing to another? There's not a lot of
That's a
detail here.
possibility. Yeah.
And do those should migrate depending on the tool. They should
Migration tools
maintain-
do those.
Yeah. I know my preferred tool is ShareGate, but I know there's a lot of them out there.
And I'll just share the link here. It's the link.
To MTA trucking.
Yes, to the school in California. Yes. All right.
I'm sure they'll appreciate the shameless plug.
Yeah. Suddenly, all these SharePoint people wanted to go into trucking. What's the connection here? Yeah.
We've been trying to get on that webcast forever, and now all of a sudden MTA trucking gets a free plug. What's the deal?
Yeah. And was that?
Maybe they'll sponsor.
Map,
the
do you
next-
remember that truck driving school we saw the ad for? I think Truck Masters, I think it is. I may need that.
Eric, was that? So you started the translation services on our disclaimer?
Yeah, I didn't actually get the text from you, so I'm just winging it.
Okay.
Please read the follow disclaimer before proceeding.
All right. I'll get that. Yep. All right. So the final question that I have here, we've got 6 minutes. So we've got plenty of time for this. If there's anything else, you know what? Before never did T-shirts. Sean, do you have anything of note to share?
I wore this T-shirt for one of the students in my CS class that I teach on Monday and Wednesday. But anybody who's ever played Borderlands, can you see the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So
Very nice. And mine, of course, is just I've worn this before. You know, I want to believe.
yes.
You want to believe it.
Yeah, we've seen it.
Yeah.
At least he tried today, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I mean,
You're phoning it in.
I'm invested. I figured that I'd invest like $100 into that. You know, the what is it? What do you use?
The $6 t-shirts.
T-shirts.com or
$6
$6t-shirts.com. So if I figure I put $100 into there, you know, I'll have a T-shirt for every session. Maybe when we hit 100, you know, and we'll be good.
Yeah.
So I'll get on that.
You
That's
don't
my
have that
first
whole
T-shirt.
drawer full of Microsoft Ignite shirts that, you know.
Oh, I do.
I got all that.
Oh, yeah.
I got that actually stored away in the basement now because I can't afford to put it. It took up too much space.
Yeah, there's and my wife every once in a while will ask, like, why are you hanging on to these? As everybody knows, there's my mother-in-law sewed it, but I donated dozens of shirts, and the Share quilt is now hanging in Microsoft's art collection in Building 34, so it's hanging on the wall there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's the hashtag Share quilt. But I have an army duffel bag, and it's completely full. I mean, stuffed, and of just vendor T-shirts of things. And those are the ones that I'm just like, I don't know if I just want to toss that out there, what I'll do with it, if I do another quilt or something with it. But, and I just went through and tried to do a purge, because there's another bag that has concert T-shirts. Going back, my first date with my wife when we were teenagers, it was a Duran Duran concert. She bought a concert tee, so we still have that original T-shirt. But with all of those from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, I mean, that's a different Army duffel bag. But this one
says on the side, in case of fire, burn.
I think that thing will go up so quick, on its own. But it's like,
my husband would call that fuel.
Yeah, fuel. All right, so let's. So the last question here. Will at Planet Maine says, "I'm creating SharePoint sites for our Microsoft team. When I create a 3-column site and display it in Teams only, one column shows unless I expand view in Teams, then all 3 show. I need the expanded view to show by default whenever anyone clicks the SharePoint site in Teams. Otherwise, they will not be aware of that additional content. I do not have admin rights to Teams. Is that needed to make this happen?"
Wouldn't setting that view as the default in SharePoint do the trick?
Is that default? Does that make any changes when it's visible through Teams?
Well, what I think is Teams will pull in the default view of a list, right?
Yeah.
So changing the default in SharePoint should.
Is this a page that he's showing, or is this a list? Because 3-column would be a page, right?
Yeah. So I'm assuming it's a page, not a list.
So
unless he's got a. You could create a view for a list with just 1 column.
Well, they're saying specifically a site.
Uh-huh.
So
Column site 3. I want to say, I think he meant to say list, but 3-column site.
Well, because in the modern layout, you can create the different layouts. Isn't there a 3-column view of the page for the section groups?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if that's what they're talking about. But
more information needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
but
Will at Planet Maine, we need more information.
but a couple of things in that space, right? Like, so when you set up a 3-column view, it's a responsive page, and so what's going to happen to the other 2 columns, if you're only seeing one, is they get pushed down, unless they're set to auto hide, which is one of the settings you can put on the column in the page. If that's if it's truly a page.
is this going to be resolved, this issue, with surfacing SharePoint sites with the new home pages capability inside of Teams?
Good question.
Stop asking questions.
Yeah, because the idea though. I mean, and it's funny because it's great that Microsoft has developed this. If you've not seen that, maybe if somebody while I'm talking here if there's a link to where Microsoft announced they're talking about the home pages in Teams, but Teams is that collaboration hub, that's place where people are going and getting work done. It doesn't stop you from having your SharePoint site and lists either in SharePoint as well as within Teams, and having experiences in both places. Well, one of the things people have been asking for quite some time with Teams is like, it'd be great just to have like a top level, like a SharePoint site, like a homepage for this team. And so now they're launching this capability. I'll open up that link. Yeah, so that's specifically to embed within Teams, but that's not about the new capabilities?
I think this one might be the one they're adding the landing page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
essentially
further blur the line between.
Well, that's the thing. It's like SharePoint is still there. You're still building those experiences. This is essentially just embedding a landing page that SharePoint site over within Teams. So if your default view, like if I log in the morning, is to go to the portal, I have that experience and get to those sites. If I'm in working, my default experience is going into Teams to find all those. I can still have the company homepage on that home site within Teams as my default login view and get all that same content. When I click on that stuff, it's still SharePoint, and get over to those experiences. But
I think Robert hit it, though. I think it has something to do with the responsive design and what size their screen is. I think there's probably something to do with that.
Simple solution: buy everybody 4K screens. Make sure that Teams is maximized.
That's right.
Problem solved.
Dun, da, da.
2 extra wide curved monitors on every desktop. That's our goal. So,
I can get behind that one.
Yeah. So, well, everybody, we are out of time. Thanks so much for everybody joining on the panel. Those that are off screen, Mike and Riz, Rob for the late join, Shari. We'll see everybody. Of course, everybody's invited back, and Sean, Hal, some of the long time old timers on this.
The moldy
group.
oldies.
Yes. But for everybody watching, again, we'll continue answering questions. You can email us at officehours@collabtalk.com. We'll be back at 8 a.m. Pacific next Monday, and we'll do this again. But the blog post will be live tonight. And if you go out to buckleyplanet.com, you can see past weeks. And progress is being made. We've started to design the searchable Power BI database of every tip that we've shared, every topic we've discussed, and there's links to. You don't have to watch all 90 minutes of the recording. You'll be able to jump to the link list, find the specific topic that's of interest, and again, that's out on buckleyplanet.com. And of course, you can also subscribe to us. All the recordings of the long play video are out on YouTube on the Collab Talk channel. So with that. Thanks, everybody, for joining, and we'll see you next week.
Adios.
Thank you.
And now I need to kick off the music again and fade us out here. So I'm gonna jump it up to some different place in this music. So let's see. Here we go.
The grandpuppy keeps nudging my arm and whining. I hope they don't hear that.
No, but we can see it.
Can you? Yeah. Okay, now he leaves. He's been busting my arm here for about 20 minutes.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
It sends me to the peak.